Gentlemen, once again, very warm welcome to another edition. And this is a program which is quite popular. I know a lot of students are appearing for exams, but I'm quite sure you'll be watching it from your home comfort, get the benefit. Before I call upon the distinguished panelists for this evening, let me quickly tell you what's happening in the next 2-3 minutes. This clock is 5 minutes fast. We have started on time, not to worry. And Wednesday, 24th of May, we have an event on discussion on the theme of the book, The Company We Keep. Divya Kannan, she's going to be there. And along with we have a very good panel, Shivkumar, Giridhar Gopal, and Vinay Kamath from Hindu Business Line. Then Monday on 5th of June, we have an interesting event, Women in Public Sector. We want to say that women do exceedingly well in all areas, even in public sector. We are getting some two outstanding women leaders from public sector to come and speak. Nisha Dingara is the director of ONGC. She's going to be there along with Savita Nataraj. She's the chief general manager, retail marketing from Indian Oil. And Lata Rajugopal will be chairing this session. This is happening online on 5th of June. Watch it out online. It's not in person. On 14th of June, again, we have an event on success story, how it was done. As usual, we bring in outstanding doctors to discuss different subjects. Earlier, we had Dr. Mohan discussing about all about diabetes, and now we got Dr. Arulmozhi Varman, the chairman, medical director of my clinic. He's again a technocrat, and he's going to be talking to us all about ophthalmology, how things are really grown in the area of ophthalmology. He's one very, very popular doctor. Then later we'll be getting somebody who was a great outstanding achiever from ENT and different areas. The idea is to get the people who can come and share their insights at this age and this place. Nobody knows what is going to hit you when. At least something is known, it will hit you faster. You will remember is that doctor told me the other day. It doesn't matter, you can always get it treated. 15th of June, not to be missed event, a very outstanding event. We're indeed privileged to present this one. Discussion, talk, presentation, the journey of a champion. We got the outstanding champions, Viswanathan Anand, the chess master, then Grand Master of Chess, Geet Sethi, World Billiards Champion, and Virendra Skina, former Indian hockey captain. They're going to be discussing on the theme, the journey of a champion. Please come, it's happening in person at MIM Management Center. Then on 21st, again, Read and Grow. The theme, book, speakers will be shared with you soon. Then we have a seminar on real estate. We call it Agile. Agile means to take about accountancy, what are the issues involved with real estate in the area of GST, and also in terms of leadership, and also trying to bring in some technology, how technology is really evolving. Because real estate is again a business area which is very attractive. Not many people really get involved, and how opportunities are available. So this is the area which will be discussing the seminar. This is happening on 23rd of June. This is Society of Auditors. We are doing this one. Then we are on 26th of June again. We have a nice evening talk on urbanization, social change and the development in Tamil Nadu experience. Again, we have an outstanding speaker because urbanization is an issue. Last week we discussed all about water. Water is our critical issue, and what will happen, urbanization along with water is nightmare. If you listen to them, we really say good. Yeah, I think the children are going to be suffering. We will be moving on soon, but we should leave the planet which is so good for our children. That is the area we do this for your interest. Then on 28th of June again, we are having a seminar along with ENDOI and another couple of organizations. Generative AI, the future is here, where we are going to be discussing everything about AI, chat GPT, and what is the issue of cybersecurity issues. Because this is the area which is discussed and not really many know, shut, open. We don't know what all that they're talking about. And there are so many things we discuss. I thought it's better to throw some lights on from the experts. It's happening. Coming to today's event, it's again most popular event. I know whether summer or not summer, we shouldn't go by the numbers for sitting here. So many people are watching it online. Very warm welcome to all the viewers watching it online. As usual, if you have any questions, please, the numbers which is flashed on the screen, send it to the question. We'll compile them and place it before the panelists. People who are here, there's a QR code put in front of you. You have any questions, just scan the QR code and send your questions. It will reach to our center here. We'll be able. You think your QR code is not functioning, Wi-Fi not functioning, technology, anything happen? We have a question slips. Then you just leave the question. Is that you got also a pen? So don't worry. He'll give you just write your questions and address, because we don't want the microphone to be circulated because it really takes a lot of time. Coming to today's evening Read and Grow topic, interesting books, and every time we discuss outstanding, because we strongly believe you have to be a great leader, you have to be a great reader. Because in MMA I had a privilege of interacting with some of the most outstanding leaders here. be it Sunil Bharati Mittal, Ratan Tata, Ajim Premji, most of them I've seen. They're all voracious readers actually. Every time they talk about something, what they read while driving in the car or in the flight or write books. So I think this is a habit which we are trying to inculcate not only amongst young entrepreneurs or young management students, also among our members. That's the idea. We keep sending you so many books, so many articles. I'm quite sure it's slowly picking up. Our members are doing extremely well. The topic which you are discussing this evening is what the CEO wants you to know, how your company really works, and the book written by Ram Charan. Any book written by Ram Charan, you don't know, even think about anything, it will have great content. But the great content, have a people of quality and high stature who will talk about that and get it, correlate to some of the experience. We have three outstanding panelists today, this evening. We'll be talking about the subject. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome Ms. Sangeeta Shankaran Sumesh, Business Leadership Coach. You have Mukund Kasthuri and Senthilkumar Sivaswamy. May I request you please take your place on the dais. Before I request Sangeeta to take it forward, the entire proceedings for this evening, and also I must thank Sangeeta, place on record, the entire team of Sangeeta, and we have another two gentlemen who run month after month some outstanding events we are doing, and today's event is facilitated by Sangeeta Sumesh Shankaran, and they really go through a series of very, very senior leaders and bring some outstanding speakers to come and speak here. Let me have the privilege of introducing the distinguished panel for this evening. Sangeeta is a business and leadership coach, speaker and author and independent director of IFB Industries Ltd. She contributes as a business and leadership coach by enabling high performance and enhancing the financial growth. She brings along a rich corporate experience of over 25 years with multinationals, and her latest position was the executive director of and chief financial officer of Dun Bradstreet Technologies. Sangeeta is a chartered accountant, management accountant, completed an executive education program from Harvard Business School. Thank you, Sangeeta, for month after month supporting us with this great initiative of MMA. Mukund Kasthuri. Mukund is a regional director, Asia and Flexco. In his role as a regional director, Mukund is tasked with building a strong Flexco programs across Asia and setting a strategic direction for sustainable growth of subsidiary locations China, India, South Asia and Middle East. Mukund joined Flexco in the year 2013 as the Managing Director, India, and was later promoted as Director of Southeast Asia subsidiary and 2016, adding Middle East responsibility in 2020. 2021, he is named as the Regional Director and he's got a Bachelor degree in Engineering. And very warm welcome to you, Mukund. It's a pleasure to have you with us this evening. And another gentleman who joined us this evening as distinguished panelist is Senthilkumar Sivaswamy. He's the Managing Director of Benteler Automotive. Senthilkumar is the Managing Director of Benteler, as he mentioned, Automotive Chennai. He started his career with Benteler Automotive, Germany, as an international technical trainee and held various positions in that company. He has an experience in the automobile industry of over 19 years, having completed his Master of Science Automotive from Ashan University, Westphalia, and he is also an alumnus of IIM Lucknow. He is a fluent in English, German, French language, and basic level of Chinese. Very warm welcome to Senthil. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Why I read the total profile is we have an outstanding panel who have seen the world, worked around the world, and the book what they are going to discuss, they will be able to renovate with some of the issues what being brought out by Mr. Ram Charan so beautifully in the book. And I am also eagerly looking forward, as much as you are looking forward, for a great evening. Over to you, Sangeeta, to take it forward.
Very good evening, everybody. So nice to be here again for yet another session of Read and Grow. And today's book, What the CEO Wants You to Know. Now, the reason I chose this book was this book is about learning and speaking the language of business. And as a business and leadership coach, I understand how important it is for businesses to grow. And in fact, that's one key area that I work with my clients on. And everybody says we want to grow. And apart from that, the author, Dr. Ram Charan, such a phenomenal person, and all his books, like Group Captain said, has been like Fantastic. So I thought this book is very crisp. It gives us the gist of what people need to focus on to grow their business. So the crux of this book, if I were to say, three things. It talks about understanding the building blocks of money making, something that's very important for all businesses. It also tells you where should you focus on for your business growth and how you can contribute to the business growth irrespective of whatever department and whatever function that you are in. So I'd like to classify the book into different buckets and highlight each of those as part of the book. So if you were to talk about the business acumen, what does the author say about the business acumen? He says, the most successful business leaders, they never lose sight of the basics. And this ability to apply the universal laws of business is what he calls as the business acumen. He draws the example of Jack Welch, the ex-CEO of GE, and a street vendor. He says, if the street vendor, for instance, he has trouble in selling his produce, what does he do? He says they tend to cut the price so that they can increase the value for their customers. They rearrange, the display and start yelling louder, which is nothing but advertising. And they also see if they can give the better mix of between the vegetables and fruits, which is nothing but your product mix. So he says every business at the core is same irrespective of how small or how big you are. And this street vendor is constantly thinking of cash, which is a very important ingredient for any business. So what is the secret sauce, right? The secret sauce, as per this book, is, he says money making has three basic parts. What are they? The cash generation, return on assets, and growth. Now, what is return on assets? He says it's nothing but the combination of velocity and the margin. So, to these three ingredients, he says, you add the customers, and that becomes the core of any business. What is velocity? Velocity describes the idea of speed, the turnover or the movement. So if you were to look at the raw materials, by the time it gets processed into the factory and turns into finished goods and moving to the customer, how quick or fast is this rate? And that is what is velocity. So the inventory turnover, like we call it in finance parlance, is also referred to as velocity, and faster the velocity, higher the returns for any business. Then he focuses on the important ingredient of cash. So he says when a company can't generate enough cash, what does it tend to do? It tends to borrow. But if they borrow heavily and do not correct the problem, they have trouble in repaying the loans, and therefore companies tend to become bankrupt. So think in your business. Does your business generate enough cash? And how is the cash being utilized in your business? So what is cash generation? Cash generation is nothing but the difference between your cash in and cash out within a certain period of time. Is your company generating sufficient cash? Why is it generating? How much is it generating? Now, these are questions he wants you to think about in your business. Even if you're in a large company, if you're heading a particular division, is your division consuming cash or generating cash? He gives a nice example of Walmart. He says Walmart, in their inventory, he says the toilet paper that's being stored is an excellent use of shelf space of Walmart because it has high velocity. And they also make profits on each toilet paper that's being sold. Pushing for sales, which many companies tend to do. Pushing for sales does not necessarily mean your business is doing well. Because is it generating cash? Are you getting sufficient margins? Those are some very important factors. So he says know the how and the why of cash generation. If your productivity is being continuously improved, then the margins and the cash get better and cash gets generated. So he advises to focus more on the productivity. So if the margin is improving and the cash is also growing, he says that's when you think of developing a new product or buy another company or expand into newer territories. From cash, let's look at customer. What does he have to say about customers? He says CEOs with good business acumen have a close connection with their customers. Why is that? Because he says by being directly connected to the customer, it helps them to identify specific areas of improvement. He gives a nice example of Sears, which is a clothing company for women in the US. The CEO had lost touch with the customers and the business started to sink. They were not aware of the latest trends and the customer behavior. So their new CEO, Arthur Martinez, he had come and then he figured out why women weren't really preferring their clothing, and he started to redesign and he expanded the range of offerings for the customers, and this paid off for the business. Both the income grew and the profitability also grew. Another very interesting thing he says, do you know the difference between consumer and customer? What is the difference? Gives a nice example illustrating this about Colgate-Palmolive. He says, whenever they develop a new product, they try to understand the needs and the wants of the consumer because they are the ones who are consuming it. But many of its processes, for example, logistics, the discounts, the merchandising, the shelving and all of that is geared towards their customers like Walmart. Customers, end of the day, buy the trustworthiness, and that is what is something very important. And when you don't get the margins that you want, talk to your customers and understand what is missing, work on it and offer your customers, which enhances the growth and betters the margin. What does he have to say about growth? He says, having no growth in this world that's growing every day, your business would lag. So he talks about shareholders' value added for judging how well your business is doing. So what is the shareholders' value add? It's nothing but your cash, your margins, the velocity, return on assets, and the growth. And growth has to be profitable and sustainable. He gives an example of a company that's been growing in sales, which is great, but the margins were dipping. So leaders need to be focused on consistent, predictable, and profitable growth. He also talks about another interesting thing called adjacencies. What is that? He gives the example of Nike. He says Nike, they work on, apart from selling the shoes, which is what they are known for, they also sell athletic apparel, right? Which is related to the core business. So that's he calls as adjacencies. He also says it's important for you to understand the company's total business. So he says ask questions, things like, what were your company's sales during last year? Is your company actually growing? Is the growth flat, declining, or how is it? What is your company's profit margin? And again, is it growing or declining? How does it compare with your competitors and other industries? What is your company's return on assets? And is your company gaining or losing to competition? So he says, understand all of this for you to get a holistic picture of your companies. Another important thing he talks about is business priorities. And he says the smart CEOs always have 3 to 5 top business priorities which help in money making. So to give an example, he says, supposing you're managing 3 or 4 different product lines. He says, do you know which one is actually making money, which one is consuming or generating cash, and which one is what your customers want? So look through, ask questions like, is the design, is it what the customers like? Is it giving you a good margin? Is it preferred over competition? CEOs should have clear business priorities for the business to keep growing. Then he talks about wealth. Wealth is more than money making. And that's where he introduces the concept of the price earnings ratio, which is the PE multiple. And he says how much profit the company makes for each share stock is what is your PE. So PE, supposing there's a PE of 7, it means for every $1 of earnings per share of your business, your stock is worth 7 times more. So obviously higher the PE, higher the wealth created for your shareholders. All the employees in GE, he says, they know that if they do not contribute to money making, GE is not the place for them to work. So he urges everybody to think on how can you contribute to the money making of your business. And by creating this wealth, it's not just the shareholders who are benefited, but also the employees get benefited. Then he touches upon the people aspect. And very interesting things he said. He says a leader harnesses the efforts of the people, expands their personal capacity and synchronizes them so that the business gets the desired results. By linking people's actions and the decisions is right priority, and it's important to have right people in the right job. Now, when there are differences of opinion, he says go ahead and confront people, because that dealing with it, any kind of mismatch that you may have, then releases the energy that has been coming in the way. He also talks about an important aspect, which he says people who do well in a job, they also need attention, and that's where he says coaching is something very important, because we think the people who are star performers don't need coaching, but it is the other way around. Let me also give you the example of the sports world. Even the topmost sports professionals tend to work with a coach. So why should it be any different in a corporate world or a business, right? So that's what he highlights. And he says, by coaching your team members, you're helping them to identify their blind spots and helping them to do things better. Feedback needs to be honest and direct. Then he moves on to talk about dwells into little more into coaching, where he says leaders don't have to just coach on the behavioral skills, but they also need to coach about the business aspect. There could be some people who are probably not strong enough to say a no, or they may lack courage, or they may not be challenging, and that's where a leader pitches in and behaves as a coach, or gets them to work with a coach to identify their blind spots and achieve the desired results. So he says when sometimes in large organizations, when there is a big group of people, decision making is slow. So he gives the example of Walmart again, where Sam Walton, the founder, had introduced something called social operating mechanism. And he says that deserves a Nobel Prize in business if there's something like that. And what they do is they just tend to meet regularly and they discuss comparing with competitors on their pricing strategy, the merchandising, consumer behavior and trends, the best practices and stuff like that, which he says is so important, because he says from a 50,000 foot level, it takes them to the 50 foot, to the ground reality, and that's what helps the business to grow. And the designing this SOM, that is the SOM, the social operating mechanism, it's the leadership task, not the HR's duty. So what and how do you go about? He says CEOs, if they have to deliver, they have to master both the business side and managing the people as well. So he gives a nice example of EDS, where how they went about managing. The new CEO actually deep dived, he went to the root cause, understood what the issues were, and then he addressed them, had his business priorities in place, which was like to grow the sales, bring down the costs, increase the margins, right? And most importantly, they wanted to focus on better client service. So doing stuff like this, having the right actions in place, having a lot of transparency within the team and discussing the results and making people accountable, right? That is very important, he says. And he concludes very interestingly to say, so what is the role that you play? What role can you play in the money making for your business? Expand your perspective from just a functional or a departmental view to have a holistic picture of the entire business. And what are the business priorities? Know the business priorities that will actually make you the money. Where is the moolah? That's my book. So get to know where the money is. So in conclusion, if I were to say the top 3 secret mantras of this book, the first thing is the elements of money making. That's cash generation, margin, velocity, returns, growth, customers, and the relationship between all of these. The second thing, the highest business priorities should be customer satisfaction, because that leads to improved satisfaction, improves your velocity, margins, which in turn results in better sales, earnings, and growth of the business. And the third thing that stood out for me is right people in the right job. By synchronizing their efforts, channelizing their energy and linking it with business priorities is what will make the difference to the business and lead the business to growth. So my friends, that is the gist of the book. Now I would like to get some of the views from both the panelists on their thoughts, their perspectives on what the book is about, and sharing some of their real life examples and their experiences is what I would like to talk about. So Mukund, what are your key takeaways from the book?
Good evening. Thank you, Captain and Sangeeta, for inviting me here. I see a lot of blue shirts, so I assume they're all students. So if everybody is not fully comfortable in English, let me know and I can switch to Tamil as well. So, Dr. Charan is a management guru. I have physically face-to-face met him a couple of times when he came to our company as a management consultant to help us do something. All that apart, the best part of this book, and I hate reading books, okay? So I should start by telling you I don't like management books. I prefer to read fiction. I prefer to read John Le Carre's spy movies, spy novels than to read about, but this book is very relatable, right? As a leader of my company, most of the things which he has put down in the book is what we do every day. Whatever Sangeeta spoke about cash, customers, return on investment, and everything else, right? So 50% of my time goes in talent management. Talent management starts with having the right people on the bus. That's the first criteria. Once you have the right people on the bus, you need to ensure that they have the behavioral and the capabilities related to that job. Do they have the right attitude? Do they have the initiative to take forward? She spoke about growth. You have to have that hunger, passion in you to go for growth. It won't come by itself, right? You should be willing to stretch yourself beyond what your company is asking you to do if you want to grow. That's a very simple thing, that passion and focus will drive you higher. All of you are going to get into corporate world, so I'm telling you that passion and focus and clear communication are the three aspects which will help you grow in an organization. Not politics, not getting in touch with the right people, all that will not help. Only things which will help is understanding your job description and delivering. Learn what is the exact expectation set by the company or by your boss, right? She spoke about setting the priorities. So understanding the exact expectations of the job and trying to understand and clarifying beforehand, and then going after those things and giving feedback at a requisite frequency of time will help you to develop a management or business acumen, right? So if you are in sales or if you are anybody in any company, you know that customer, if there is no customer, if you don't sell, you're not going to make profit, okay? So customer is the one around which everything is centered. That's why people call it customer centered, customer centric, all that. But end of the day, vaangrava illenna vikka mudiyadhu. Simple. How do you make him buy is the part of new product development, understanding voice of customer, solving problems, all those things, right? So the basic funda is nobody will buy from you unless he understands or accepts that you have something which he needs. If you make some difference to him, only then he's going to buy. Otherwise, he'll not buy. I'm sure my friend who is selling cars here knows that when he's competing with Volkswagen or competing with Benz and other people, They have to show that they are different or they have something which other people don't have. Otherwise, people will not buy, right? Everybody is in the same platform. All are luxury cars, all are well-known brands. There's nothing much, unless they can show a differentiation and create that demand from the customer, they cannot get that margin. She spoke about margin, right? Why will somebody pay 10 rupees more for a particular product if he can do with something which meets his requirement 10 rupees lower? So on the margin create பண்றதுக்கு, you have to create value for the customer. So I'm not repeating whatever she said. I'm trying to give you examples of specifically how to increase margin or how to make sure the customer is focused on. And she spoke about velocity. So we do, in any company, inventory turns is expected to be 3 or 3.5 at least, which means you rotate the inventory 3 to 3.5 times per year, so that you don't have non-moving stock, you don't have to write off stuff which you cannot sell. You have to have stock. If you want to sell today, stock irukano. Okay, you have, everybody expects Amazon Prime delivery, right? One day, which means everybody wants it immediately. So you have to have the stock. How do you know what stock to keep is the biggest challenge most of the CEOs have. We don't know, like, let me relate to his product. If everybody wants a black and if he has a red color car in his stock, he can't sell it, right? He needs to have the research or mechanism to find out what customer wants and keep those so that he can rotate the inventory faster. If he rotates inventory faster, the whole cycle is faster and you're protecting your cash. She said cash in, cash out is equal to cash, right? So if you block it in inventory or if you don't make enough margin, then as an aspiring CEO, you're not cutting the bill, right? So this is the primary aspect of nothing has changed in the business. 30 years ago till Chat GPT, nothing has changed. Everything is the same. Customer remains the primary responsible person who drives your business. Having the right people in the company has not changed. The business model has changed slightly from B2B to B2C to, you have variations about e-commerce, you've got different kinds of things going on. That's the only thing which has changed. So the CEOs need to make sure they're abreast with technology as well, right? So they have to make the investments, the right investments to make sure that the return comes faster. This is what I learned from this book.
Thank you, Mukund. Senthil, to you, what are your key takeaways from the book and what stood out for you in this book?
First of all, thank you, Sangeeta, for inviting me for this discussion on the book, and the MMA for giving me this opportunity to discuss. Thank you. And when I read this book, I read it a couple of years ago. When I read this book, and what I really liked is the author Ram Charan. He has really described it in a very, very simple way. He compared the CEO with the street vendor. He took all the examples from the street vendor. Maybe I'll also use the same. When I read this couple of years ago, my kids were really small. And it's like the same. All the parents might have gone through the same. And the kids will ask, Appa, how this is working? Why this? We will really scratch our head to explain the kids that in simple words we have to explain them. So every one of us can really explain it in a very simple way. That is how Ram Charan has really gone through this whole book in a very simple way. This is what really I liked. He really explained the complete business with the street vendor, what the street vendor is doing. For example, when the street vendor is, he has given some examples. I would take a similar example. What the street vendor, when he or she, for the neutrality, I take maybe she.
Yes. I support.
You support. Thank you. When she has the capital of, for example, 100 or 200 rupees. And then she buys. That is the capital that she has. And then she buys variety of fruits. the variety of fruits, it's the product mix, what we call in our business, in the corporate business, I would say. Yeah, and then that's the product mix, and then the street vendor has to see the competitor, the other fruit vendor. Yeah, they have to see, that's the market analysis, and then the forecast, how. And then if from the beginning of the day, when the street vendor is start to sell the fruit, yeah, then from time to time, from morning to evening, yeah, the time passes, and then the street vendor should know when she has to decrease the price, because she cannot keep the inventory. If she keeps the inventory, yeah, then this will be of no use next day. She cannot get the cash. Yeah? She needs the cash for tomorrow. Yeah? So she has to see when she can increase the price or decrease the price with how much. And if this particular fruit is not selling, she has to take the different fruit or different assortment. Yeah, she should also do this. Yeah. So Charan has given this with this example, yeah, in the whole book. Yeah, the capital invested, what she has done, and then the product mix, and then the profit margin she has to see. Yeah, if she has invested 100 rupees, she has to see how much she should keep the margin, so that at the end of the day she can take some cash in hand. Yeah, and then he is also discussing about velocity. Sangeeta has already explained about the velocity. Yeah, if for example, if the street vendor, she is keeping 10% margin, yeah, and if he has taken this capital maybe for 20%, that doesn't mean that she is losing. She has to increase the velocity, means she has to rotate her capital. She has to buy again and again. Yeah, then she really summed up well. The revenue is velocity into the margin. If she, for example, if she sells 5 times, yeah, then it's 5 into 10. End of the day, she has 50. Yeah. So this is what Charan has really described in a very simple way. That's what I really liked about. Yeah. When you asked me to discuss about this book a couple of weeks ago, I read this again. And when I read this first time, I had a different perspective, different maturity level. And that's what, when I read this last week,
Now with your experience and the perspective.
Yeah, the perspective is different. Yeah, that's what the beauty of reading the good book. Yeah, when we are studying in the school teacher told us Mahabharata should not be really read. Yeah? It should be heard. Otherwise, we will interpret differently. That's what they did in Gurukul. Yeah, that has to be. So we really don't interpret differently. But the beauty of the book is when we have the maturity level, then we interpret differently. So now when I read this again, I really had the different perspective. Awesome. Yeah. I think the aspiring leaders has to really read this. Yeah, to understand in the basic language. Yeah, the basic language, universal language of business. Yeah.
Thank you, Senthil, for that. Mukund, if I were to ask you, the book talks about return on assets. Now, what should one look for in a company that's not asset heavy? Or, if they are not, like, let's say, maybe they are into more people, not much into assets, what should they look at? And, what would be your take on the velocity and stuff like that?
So I'll give an example from my company, right? So we set up a company in Dubai, and because of this reason that we did not want to have heavy investments to look for return, we went with a lease model. We went with renting of third-party logistics. We went with renting of office space. Wanted to keep everything on a very low variable rather than a fixed cost model. And we invested on the people. Right? So the people are also an asset and also an investment. So all IT companies, for example.
But people the turnover shouldn't be high, right?
Yeah. So you have to invest on the people and how they grow or how they deliver. So you spoke about coaching, you spoke about increasing capability. So one of the main theories is always try to work on the strengths of the people rather than trying to change them. You're not Vivekananda to change somebody so easily, right? So work on the strength of the people and give them coaching to make them stronger. So all IT companies today are like that, right? So their main asset is only computers and people. They don't have anything else. All the buildings are leased, everything is rented, the cars are rented, everything is rented. So you have to keep investing on the development of the people. I explained 50% of my time goes in talent management. So it's always to keep looking at how to make the people stronger, how to make them deliver more, how to increase their capabilities. At the same time, you have to retain them. You have to find ways to retain them by giving them a very good workplace culture, giving them the freedom to operate, and also giving them remuneration which is in line with market trends.
Thank you for that. Senthil, to you, what are your thoughts on measuring the velocity? And from your experience, can you share some practical examples?
Yes, yeah. Velocity in our automotive industry, what we call this inventory turnover. Yeah, the inventory turnover I really don't go into the formulas, but it's to keep it simple, yeah, to understand the logic behind that, what we are doing. We really need the working capital, yeah, to run our business. For each product, parts, or the models that we are manufacturing worldwide, we really need the working capital. And before starting with the project, we have to see what is from the suppliers when we get, yeah, what is the payment term, and then and also the inventory is in the ratio or in the days, and also minus the material cost. Yeah, then we come up with what we need as the budget for the working capital. Yeah, then we really need to optimize this inventory turnover for the whole period of the lifetime of the product, maybe for 7 years we have to see. And then as much as possible, we have to optimize the inventory. Yeah, and last week I was in our Palmela plant in Portugal. That is a JIT plant. This is just in time. That's yeah, I can say this is a classical example, because the parts, normally our parts involves 10, our product involves 10 parts, yeah, if we make an axle or the front bumper. But in the JIT plant, we are doing the complete model. It involves nearly 200 to 300 spare parts, yeah. Some parts we do and some parts we buy, yeah. And then we really have to find a way how we optimize the flow of the material so that we really keep the low inventory, and then our gross margin will really increase. Yeah, as you said, the gross margin has to be a very important part in keeping the profitability on the earnings of the company. So yeah, we really need to optimize the inventory. As Mukund also mentioned, yeah, 3 times the turnover inventory. Yeah. In also it's our industry, it's the same, yeah, 3 to 4 months. It depends on the which part or the product or models that we are working. In JIT plants, it can be even days, yeah. So yeah.
Okay, interesting, yeah.
If I could just add to what he said, right? Yes. So the best is to have negative working capital. We followed that model in India when we started the company. You get maximum credit from your supplier and take advance from your customer. This is the
yes, yeah.
This is the best mechanism to operate on negative working capital, because cash is king. Right? Yeah. She mentioned cash is king. It's better to have cash so that you don't have to worry about whether you can pay salaries, whether your shareholders will breathe down your neck or not. So if you can manage negative working capital or zero working capital, that's the best possible solution, so that you don't pay interest on borrowings, you manage your whole expenses with this.
Yes, that's a great strategy. However, also the MSME Act, I think you have to pay within 45 days, right? Yeah, those little things.
Yeah, with the suppliers, yeah, we need to negotiate the payables, yeah, longer, yes, and the receivables as much as quick, yeah. So we have the working capital.
Yes. Yeah. And have a robust cash collection.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Mukund, to you now, like the book says, a smart CEO is always in touch with the customer, which is great. For a B2B, right? How different is it for a B2B business and a B2C business? Being in touch with the customer, knowing their behavior, the patterns, the trends and all that.
So worldwide, our topmost priority in B2B, we are in B2B segment. She mentioned about customer and consumer. It's exactly the same. The customers are our dealers and distributors, and consumers are steel plants, power plants, cement plants, whoever is using the product. The CEO will not be successful if he sits in a boardroom. I want to mention this very clearly, that he has to lead from the front. He needs to have a plan to visit the actual users based on some frequency, depending on how important the customer is. He needs to make sure that he meets them, understands, starting from a maintenance engineer till the general manager of the plant, what exactly are they looking for, and is my product satisfying that need or not. If he understands that beforehand, he can go back to his engineering, retweak the product, or go for new product development, or any of those things, because he has to retain existing customers before going after new customers, right? It's far easier and cheaper to retain existing customers than to acquire new customers. So we should not lose fact that if you sit in the boardroom and lose track of what happens with the customer, actually, especially in B2B, in B2C, the customer is unknown, right? Yeah. She gave example of Sears and Walmart. People going and standing at the counter and seeing what people are buying. It's again a point of time. It's in point in time, right? So they may not be able to assess exactly, but in a B2B situation, all customers are captive to a large extent. So it's up to us to determine how to engage with them.
True.
So customer engagement in some form or the other for the senior leadership team and the CEO is a must if you want to ensure that you don't lose track.
Correct. Yes, I think the book also says that, and yeah, awesome. Thank you. Senthil, to you, what do you think are some of the good initiatives for maximizing the shareholders' value?
Yeah, shareholders. Yeah, the objective of the shareholders is to get money back. Absolutely. What they have invested. Yes, yeah. Yes. So that should also be for the company. Yeah. So in mind, they have to create wealth for the shareholders. Yeah. I will take the example of our company. Where our company, we manufacture automotive parts, and which is relevant, for both IC engines as well as e-mobility, 80% of our parts. But recently now we are into e-mobility. In India also, when we see, particularly in the passenger vehicles compared to last year, it's nearly 142% in India. Yeah? So the growth rate is really high. By 2030, there is a prediction by two-wheelers, it will be 80% will be e-vehicle and 30% of cars will be e-vehicle. So as I said, our some of our products is also relevant to IC engines. Then even in Europe, it's growing faster. Even though the infrastructure and all is still in India, we really need to develop there. But so we have a now gap from our products. So we need to find the alternate products for us. So that's means we need to move from the IC engine parts to the e-mobility thing. So for examples, we are now offering rotor shaft, the cooling plate for the battery. And since 2017, we are also into e-mobility in a big way. And we have also formed a different separate company from us, and that we developed the self-autonomous vehicle. Yeah, so Benteler will release soon the autonomous vehicle. It's called people mover, and we already got the order, and we are working with more than 100 suppliers, and we will be releasing this in the US, and the prototype we will be it's already we started to manufacture the prototype, and we'll be releasing this in the market in 2025. And I mean to say, then if there is a gap, yeah, in our earnings, we really need to stay relevant in the market, yeah, because as Mukund said, yeah, customer centric, yeah. If there are no customers, then we really don't get any revenue, yeah. We have to see what is the trend in the market, yeah, and how we have to. Customer has only one need, yeah. Then we really need to find that need. We have to satisfy. Then we stay in the market, and we can grow. Everyone wants to, yeah, join a company or in the company which is growing, yeah. So
That gives the energy.
energy, yeah, it's also psychological thing, yeah.
True,
Yeah,
true.
even yeah, I'm really proud to work with Benteler Automotive as well, yeah. So then we can really increase the shareholder value, yeah.
Great, great. Thank you for that. Mukund, to you, the book really stresses on the importance of business priorities. Now, what are some effective ways to come up or, design the right business priorities for the business?
Can I ask how many people have read the book here? No? Okay, so my answer will go based on that. That's fine. So she mentioned about the takeaways from the book, right? So when we look at the business, the first thing we look at is profitable sales growth. You cannot grow if you don't have profit. You cannot grow if you are stagnant. So whatever strategies you put in place has to drive profitable, sustainable, consistent sales growth. This is a must, whether you are operating in an existing market or you're going into a new market, new customer, existing customer, whatever be the quadrant you're in. Profitable sales growth is a must as far as the first priority is concerned. The next priority is how do you reduce your expenses so that your margins, your operating income or your profit is helpful for the stakeholder. If you invest 1,000 rupees on Asian Paints share, you're expecting to see a dividend of 100 rupees, not 1 rupee, right? As a shareholder, that's your expectation. It's the same expectation for whoever is running a CEO. The CEO is expected to give back money. So the priority of the business would be how to retain customers who are giving you higher value. So if there are two people, if one person is willing to pay 100, another person is willing to pay only 80, and if your cost is 70, you know where to go, right? You have to maximize your margin. So maximizing margin, profitable sales growth, ensuring that the people are the right ones in the company who can delegate and execute depending on which position they are in to drive the business. So inventory turns, all that are enablers for increasing the margin. They are not the be all and end all. The main thing is how do you ensure that your manufacturing is at the optimum cost? How do you ensure that your selling price is the highest possible so that you maximize your return? So that each CEO has to break down the problem into smaller bits and then attack those smaller bits. Rather than looking at the whole problem as a big one, you'll get overwhelmed. So you have to break down into smaller bits and work towards that and have the right people who can operate. The CEO cannot do everything on his own. He needs the right team. So collaboration among people is something which I would look for as a basis of business priority.
Awesome. I always say, leaders only as successful as his team. So I think wonderfully said, and I love the point of breaking it down into smaller bits and then working on it. Great. Senthil, last question to you. How should a CEO actually educate his team on the importance of price earnings?
Yeah, you already touched this topic, price earnings. Yeah, price earnings is really important because it is connected with our company and also with the competitor and also with the industry as well as the total market. Yeah. So it's really important that everyone in the company should know the price earnings ratio. Yeah, you already mentioned this. If for example the PE is 15, yeah, then for every rupee that the company is earning, then it's creating a wealth of 15 times to the shareholder.
Yes.
So this is so important. Yeah. So from the company perspective, I'm telling, keeping all these investors and financial analysts aside. So it's really the, yeah, every company has to maximize this PE as much as possible. Otherwise, this will really affect the stock value. Yeah. Um, um, there are some financial analysts, yeah, good financial analysts, two financial same with the same experience can really predict the PE, yeah, some difference, yeah.
Yes. So
If
how can the team know the importance and
Yeah.
work towards it?
Yeah. So the team has to really understand, yeah, the PE is a combination of the profit margin that they are getting and as well as on the investment and as well as the velocity. Yeah. The team has to know all this combination is the PE. Yeah. Then they really have to keep in mind how to increase the velocity, how to increase the gross margin. Yeah, how to increase the return on investment. Otherwise, our company PE will really come down. This will really eradicate the shareholder value. Yeah, the job of the company is to create wealth for the
Yes,
shareholder.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Otherwise, the shareholders will not invest in company A. They will take the money and go to company B. Yeah.
True, very true, very true. I think that messaging when the CEO gives the people, I think that makes
Is-
a lot of difference. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Probably we can open for questions online. Anybody here? Also, if you have questions, I think there is now the QR code and whatever. So feel free to ask the questions. We have the experts here.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of students here. So let me start with the questions that I already have, some of them which have come online, and I think we can gradually have some more if there are any. Let me start with I think the questions that have come from the hall here. Mr. Kupuswamy is sitting here. He wants to know, particularly to Ms. Sangeeta, he says, people front, frequency matching skill. How will you improve? Frequency matching skill, how will you improve? Does the book say anything about it?
So the book talks about having the right people in the right job, and I think it's important to leverage on the strengths of your people, right? Like you don't expect a fish to fly. So similarly, whatever each person is capable of, whatever are their natural talent and the skills, I think it's important to make use of that. And the person is also happy and passionate doing it. You also get the most out of them, and I think that's what creates a win-win. Skill improvement, he also says that, even the best people, get them to coach them as well. Because, we tend to ignore thinking, somebody is doing well and don't pay much attention to them. So the book says, even such people, you need to coach them. And coaching is not just performance review, but, helping them to scale up to their next level, helping them identify their blind spots and encouraging them to deliver their best and maximizing their potential is what coaching is about. So that's what he says there.
Thank you. Thank you. Then we have the next question also from the hall, Dr. Vasudevan to Mr. Mukund. Sir, you mentioned about maximization of profit, and you gave this example of 100 versus 70 rupees or 80 rupees. So, in a scenario where there is one customer who is willing to pay 100 and there is a repeat customer who is willing to pay only 80, what will be the option?
Good question. I also mentioned that it's cheaper to hold an existing customer than to acquire a new one. So there is no free lunch in this world. Okay, so all you students, everything you are paying for, knowingly or unknowingly. So when a company goes after getting a repeat business or something else, they probably put in less effort, less number of sales calls, less convincing to be done from a time or from a value perspective, because the customer is already aware of your product to some extent. So if he's happy, he's going to place a repeat order. So from a marginal costing perspective or from increasing velocity, as she mentioned, I would go with the 80 rupees if I do not have to spend on getting that more. So I would love to have a combination of 100, 80 and 70 so that it's a mix. You can't get 100 from everybody, right? There are people who are going to give you only 80, some who are going to give you 70. So you need to have that prudent mix. And overall mix, if it's profitable, well and good. Otherwise, you need to learn how to exit.
I think cost benefit analysis, end of the day, that's what matters. And to add to what Mukund said to the students, if there is no product, then you are the product.
Yeah. So the next question, I think we will take it to Senthil. Does the book say anything about where the focus of the CEO should be? Profit, process, people, or product?
I think it's should be all, yeah. And first of all, a profit, because the CEO, the company should create wealth, yeah. It should really concentrate on the profit by various means, by increasing the velocity or gross margin, or any other means how we can increase the profit. And also the people, yeah, it's really important. Yeah. The book says the CEO should be the leader of business and also the leader of people. Yes. Yeah. So the leader of business, he knows what to do, and the leader of people, he knows how to do. He really has to find the right people. Yeah, that's called, that's what Sangeeta mentioned, the synchronization. He really needs to see which people, who fit for this job. Yeah, then that's also really a primary job of CEO. Yeah, the book says about that as well.
Great. I think you laid down the priority there very nicely, the sequence. So there's a question from Mr. Sundar from Pondicherry. Says, sir, from the perspective of an employee, in spite of ensuring all the KPIs are being met, there are ever increasing demands from the CEOs. How does then employee meet this expectation?
So first thing is you should decide whether you want to be a CEO or not. Okay, the jokes about whatever Senthil said in terms of priorities and stuff like that. The biggest problem, I believe, is matching a KRA and KPI to the job description is where most companies go wrong. We think that's the right KRA. We think that's the right KPI. So if I do that KRA and KPI very well, then I lift my collar and say I need to get double promotion or double increment, and I don't get it. So it's a question of balancing aspiration versus reality and delivery. I think the right feedback probably is not being given throughout the year for the employee to change, or if he can correct himself. It should not happen just end of the year appraisal, or the feedback is supposed to be a continuous process, right? So I would expect that the employee touches base with his manager at least 3-4 times in a year, so that he has enough time to course correct. Because there has to be thought alignment on what I think is right and what he thinks is right? If I keep thinking what I've done is right, and if he keeps, it will just lead to toxic environments rather than.
Right, great. So then there is one, Mr. Nathan from Salem. He said, sir, you people have referred about the Walmart example of customer versus consumer. Who is more important for the CEO if both of them are different?
If both of them are?
Different. The customer and consumer are different, like you mentioned the Walmart.
I don't think they should differentiate the two, because both are important for the business, and therefore CEO or the business has to cater to the needs of both, because end of the day the consumers are telling you, what they want, the behaviors and the trends, and your business is catering for them through the customers in the example of Walmart. So I think both are important and you can't say, leave one and just focus on the other. End of the day, business has to win. So do what it takes.
Both of them should be given equal.
Yes.
If I, sorry, if I could just add something, a different perspective to this.
Yeah, please.
Except America, where distribution is the king, every other country, I would go with the consumer.
Consumer.
Because I can create the customer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can create the middleman who can take it to the consumer. But if the consumer doesn't use my product, then I have.
Absolutely.
So America is a different ball game. Rest of the world is a different ball game. So it depends on where you're operating.
Very good, different perspective. Thank you. So anyone here now wants to? Yeah, we can give in case you're not. Come on, students. You can ask anything. I mean, they're all very experienced people, and so many of you sitting here. I'm sure a very interesting discussion has happened. So I'm sure some of you can take advantage of this. Anyone here who wants to ask a question? Otherwise, I've got a couple of more which have come online, and possibly then we can close it with that. Anybody?
Yes,
Yeah,
Amma.
very good. Give him the mic. If you're not comfortable in English, like sir சொன்ன மாதிரி, you can ask in Tamil, not to worry. இங்க எல்லாருக்குமே தமிழ் தெரியும், தமிழ்ல கேளுங்க.
Okay.
German இருந்தாலும் கேட்கலாம்.
French,
German நம்மளுக்கு வராது. So good evening. So good evening, ma'am. So this is about sales, not being a CEO. My first question is, so what's the one thing which makes successful salesman to close many deals, while the normal ones find hard to attain targets?
இன்னும் கிட்ட வச்சு
Second part,
இன்னொரு தடவை கேளுங்க.
Repeat.
So what is the one thing
What is
which
the one
makes
thing?
successful salesman to achieve the targets on a regular basis?
On a regular
While இப்போ சில சேல்ஸ்மேன்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we are finding very hard to attain the targets, right? So what is the one thing பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இப்போ வந்து successful salesman எது தூக்கி நிறுத்துது? So அது we thought we want to know.
Got the question, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, from my perspective, whatever your customer needs, if you can address that in your selling process, I think you become a winning salesman. Customer oda theva enna? If you can address that while you're selling, while you're pitching, you address that, then the customer will tend to buy. They can share their perspectives.
Yeah, the company CEOs, the incentive should also be given to the one which aligns with the priority from the company. Yeah, if the salesperson is only selling that with the low margin, and if it is not aligning with the priority of the company, then it's also not good. Otherwise, we will reduce the earning of the company. Yeah? That should also be.
Yes, that's the example in the book also. They're focusing on increasing the sales, which is very good, but then the profits, the margin, profit margin was actually declining.
Yeah.
Then he says, then it's not a win-win.
Because if we really increase the top line, yeah, the revenue is increasing, but we should also see the bottom line as well. Sometimes if we increase the top line, then we put so much money on only the sales, then we really not generating the cash. It's not good for the company.
So I'm a salesperson for 33 years. Okay, CEO is only a add-on designation. I love to sell. To answer your question, focus, passion, and connect with the customer. If you want to continuously be successful now, you have to go in front of the customer. This is first. You need to engage with the customer. You need to understand, as she said, what exactly he wants. And அது எப்படி தேவை பூர்த்தி பண்ணணும்னு you have to come up with your own strategies. இது யாராலையுமே எங்கேருந்து சொல்லிக் கொடுக்க முடியாது. They can teach you all MBA jargon, everything from the boardroom, but end of the day, you are alone. You are the single person standing in front of him. He is shooting bullets at you. You need to know how to judge. You need to know how to protect yourself and convince him that you have the best product. So it's purely a self-taught skill. It's not taught in any book. You have to increase margin, you have to increase price. First thing is you need to have the connect with the person. He has to like you, you have to like him. Only then sale will happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Any other question from the students here? Otherwise, I'll go to the next question which has come online. Mr. Fernandez from Chennai. Does the book have anything to say about the succession planning? Which is the best approach for a CEO to choose a successor, either from within the organization or should it be from outside?
The book hasn't mentioned anything on succession planning. However, succession planning is something very, very important and essential. And to answer his question, there is no hard and fast rule.
Okay.
It can be internal or external, but the most important thing is right person in the right job
Okay.
with the capabilities and, having the business priorities, the skills and all those things, that's what matters.
Okay. Thank you. So one last question, sir. Mr. Sridhar, once again from Chennai. Will there be a difference in the expectation of a CEO depending upon whether it's a pyramid or a flat organization?
I don't think so. End of the day, the business priorities and the requirement of the owners or the stakeholders is the same. The number of levels of hierarchy in the organization is a matter of choice or a matter of the business. It's got nothing to do with, it's morally based on what kind of product you're selling, what kind of customer, and how you want to keep your costs down. So if you have a matrix organization which is flat, you can have more collaboration if you can build the culture into it. If you can't build the culture into it, then you need to have a hierarchical organization. So I don't think it makes any difference either way, because the priority is to make money, to make profit, and all the enablers are the same, whether it's any organization, right? Inventory turns, margin, PE, return on investment, everything is the same.
Anybody wants to add on something? The last question. Anything you would like to?
No, I really agree with Mukund. Yeah, it really makes no difference. Yeah, end of the day, we have to increase the value. Yeah, the shareholders' value. Yeah.
Okay, I think we've come to the end of this evening's. Ms. Sangeeta, would not want to say something on this? But that's all done. Okay. So we have over 285 people watching this program online. We thank all of them for being with us for the last 1.5 hours. We come to the end of the session. May I request Group Captain Vijay Kumar to come and hand over the memento to the guest speakers. And here for for this program, we normally, because we give more books to me. We give more books to me. Please come again. Come, sir. Come, come. Come, sir. Come. Thank you so much for coming. Nice. Okay. Can I have a picture? Over there. Sir, please go on. Come. 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 You come here. Panel. Camera. Thank you. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Very good. Fantastic session today, guys. Very good. Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Reach home safe until we meet again. The next program is on the 24th of May, same place. Of course, before that, there are other programs happening at other places. You will get mail. Thank you so much. Good night.